In today's Who Died Today, we bring you the devastating news of lives lost in November 2024, and in recent days, a series of departures that have sent shockwaves through the world. The void left by these icons is unimaginable, and their stories will forever echo in the hearts of those they touched. From unexpected passings to legends fading into memory, each of these losses is a reminder of how fragile life truly is. Prepare for an emotional journey through the lives of those we have tragically lost and reflect on the legacies they leave behind. This is one you won't want to miss. If this touched you, please like, share, and comment below to honor these incredible lives. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates on the lives and legacies of those we've lost. Number 4. Roy Haynes, jazz drumming's revolutionary genius. Roy Haynes was one of the last giants of modern jazz, a man whose presence spanned over 8 decades of musical evolution. From swing to bebop, jazz fusion to avant-garde, Haynes wasn't just a participant in the story of jazz, he helped write it. A true pioneer, he was the drummer who redefined rhythm, making it snap and crackle with every stroke. Haynes, often called Snap Crackle for his sharp percussive playing, was a musician who brought both precision and surprise to the drum kit. His crisp, rapid-fire snare hits became legendary from his earliest recordings. Haynes himself would describe his signature sound as making the drums snap and crackle, a playful yet forceful imagery that perfectly encapsulated his explosive yet nimble style. Soundbite of Lester Young's Ding Dong plays. Haynes's contribution to jazz drumming was revolutionary. He was among the first to break away from traditional swing patterns, creating space for improvisation and freeing up soloists to explore new territories. In the words of Haynes, "You make it crackle and you make it snap, like you can hit a rim shot," explaining the sharp, dynamic impact of his drumming. Born in Roxbury, Boston, on March 13, 1925, Haynes' musical journey began early. His parents, both immigrants from Barbados, filled their home with music of all genres, but it was his brother's involvement in the high school drum and bugle corps that sparked Haynes' interest in percussion. From a young age, he began experimenting with any surface he could find, using sticks to tap out rhythms. By the age of 16, he had gathered his own drum kit and started performing. Haynes, speaking in an interview, "I picked up my brother's sticks around the house, and boom, I started banging on everything. I bought pieces of my drum set one by one, snare drum, bass drum, cymbals, and before you know it, I was playing gigs." By the early 1940s, Haynes was already performing in Boston nightclubs, and by 1945, he was a regular at New York's Savoy Ballroom, backing the likes of Louis Russell's orchestra. His time at the Savoy was a formative period, allowing him to absorb the vibrant energy of the Harlem jazz scene. But it wasn't until he joined Lester Young's band in 1947 that he would truly begin to make his mark. Soundbite of Bud Powell's Little Willie Leaps plays. In the late 40s, Haynes found himself working with some of the greatest jazz innovators: Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Bud Powell, and Thelonious Monk. From 1949 to 1952, he was the drummer of choice for Parker, an experience that helped shape his rhythmic vocabulary. But it wasn't just the hard bop revolution Haynes was a part of. He helped shape the sound of modern jazz through every phase of his career. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, Haynes played alongside a who's who of jazz legends: Sarah Vaughan, Stan Getz, John Coltrane, and Eric Dolphy, among others. He was always adapting, pushing the boundaries of rhythm. In fact, his ability to adapt to any style and situation is what set him apart. Sarah Vaughan's How High Is the Moon plays. Haynes' versatility was also evident in his collaborations with vocal legends like Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, and Ella Fitzgerald, where he showcased not just his drumming, but his ability to intuitively support and complement the singer's phrasing. Roy had so much fire and power, but also a real sense of grace and wit. He helped to move jazz forward. He was central to the transition from swing to bebop, and later to avant-garde and free jazz. His ability to create space within the music allowed soloists to take risks and explore new ideas. A soundbite of Pharoah Sanders' Morning Prayer plays? Haynes was an architect of sound, able to break traditional rhythmic structures and free the music from its predictable patterns. His drumming was a conversation, a dynamic, ever-evolving dialogue that gave jazz its unexpected twists and turns. Haynes's creative energy was unyielding. Even as he entered his 90s, he continued to perform live, and his presence was an inspiration to the younger generation of jazz musicians. His last album, Royalty, was released in 2011, but his influence never waned. He mentored drummers like his son, a cornet player, and his grandson, a drummer himself, ensuring that his legacy would continue for generations to come. Haynes said, "From Louis Armstrong to Pat Metheny, I covered the waterfront." That's a lot of territory. Where's my cognac? Soundbite of Snap Crackle from the Roy Haynes Quartet plays. Haynes was known for his joy and his sense of humor. Even in his later years, he remained a figure who celebrated his life through music. As he once said, "I'm full of rhythm, man. I feel it. I think summer, winter, fall, spring, hot, cold, fast, and slow colors, but I don't analyze it." For him, jazz was never a formula. It was a feeling, a way of life. Roy Haynes left us at 99 years old on November 12, 2024, but his sound, his approach to rhythm, and his enduring spirit will continue to inspire generations. From his early days with Lester Young to his last performances, Haynes' impact on jazz was immeasurable. He didn't just play the drums, he transformed them, bringing a lifetime of experience, wisdom, and creativity to each and every performance. In the end, Roy Haynes was more than just a drummer. He was a force of nature, a living legend, and a symbol of jazz's ever-evolving beauty. He will always be remembered as one of the architects of modern jazz drumming. Soundbite of Roy Haynes playing a drum solo. Rest in peace, Roy Haynes. Your rhythm will live on forever. Number 3, Dabney Coleman, Hollywood's charming villain, Dabney Wharton Coleman. A name that perhaps doesn't resonate with the youngest generation of moviegoers, but for many, his presence on screen is unforgettable. An actor whose roles often stood at the intersection of humor, sharpness, and a unique ability to convey the worst in human nature, all with a certain charm. Dabney Coleman was known for playing the archetype of the arrogant boss, the kind of character you loved to hate. In 9 to 5, as Franklin Hart Jr., he was the epitome of office sexism and corporate power, a role that not only defined his career, but also endeared him to audiences for years to come. Coleman's co-stars, Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda, recall the way he worked on set, not just as a consummate professional, but as someone who, despite playing the villain, created a supportive environment for those around him. Dabney Coleman, "The girls were so supportive of me. They made sure I was included in everything. They were on a whole different level, but they made me feel like I was a part of the team." But it wasn't just on screen that Coleman shone. His career spanned across both film and television, and though many of his roles were comedic, often playing cynical, egotistical characters, they were also layered with depth. Coleman could pivot from comedy to drama seamlessly. In Tootsie, he played Ron Carlyle, a conceited soap opera director, and again, he nailed it. But behind those roles was a man who had lived a life full of unexpected turns, both on and off the screen. Born on January 3, 1932 in Austin, Texas, Dabney Coleman's early life wasn't steeped in Hollywood glamour. Raised in Corpus Christi, Texas, he was a talented tennis player, achieving national ranking as a junior. He went on to study at the University of Texas and later served in the U.S. Army. It was there, while stationed in Germany, that he first found his passion for acting. After completing his service, he made a decision that would change his life: to pursue acting. With determination, he moved to New York City and trained at the renowned neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. studying under Sanford Meisner. It was there that Coleman's talent was nurtured. Though his early career didn't offer immediate success, his big break came with the TV show Mary Hotman 197677, where he portrayed Merle Jeter, a character so deplorable that it captured the essence of everything Coleman would come to master, making unlikable people strangely compelling. Merle Jeter. He was just the worst human being. A once-in-a-lifetime character. I don't know if you ever saw it, but he was just awful, and it was a blast to play. From that point, Coleman's career exploded. He found himself cast in major roles in films like War Games, 1983, On Golden Pond, 1981, and Cloak and Dagger, 1984, and which we'll cover in the full episodes about ghosts and goblins, showing his ability to jump between genres and characters. In television, Coleman continued to prove his versatility. Whether it was playing the self-absorbed TV host in Buffalo Bill or the cynical sports writer in the Slap Maxwell story, his wit and timing were unparalleled. Even when the shows struggled with ratings, Coleman's performances earned him critical acclaim and prestigious nominations, including a Golden Globe for the Slap Maxwell story and an Emmy for Sworn to Silence, 1987. In his later years, Coleman embraced more complex roles, most notably in Boardwalk Empire 2, 0102011, where he portrayed the powerful and corrupt Commodore Louis Castner. His portrayal was so compelling that it earned him 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards for outstanding performance by an ensemble. In the 2000s, Coleman's voice became iconic to a new generation of children when he voiced Principal Peter Prickly on the animated series Recess 199720001, bringing a sense of warmth to a character who, in another actor's hands, could have been purely a caricature. In what would be his final television role, Coleman made a memorable appearance on Yellowstone, 2019, playing John Dutton Jr., a role that allowed him to share a tender, vulnerable side with an audience that had come to know him only for his hard-edged characters. Outside of his career, Dabney Coleman's personal life was filled with love for his 4 children, Megan, Kelly, Randy, and Quincy. His marriages, first to Ann Courtney Harrell and later to Jean Hale, shaped him as much as his work. Through the years, he remained grounded in the love of his family and his enduring passion for tennis. In 2014, Coleman's contributions to the entertainment industry were recognized with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, cementing his place in Hollywood history. Dabney Coleman passed away on May 16, 2024, at the age of 92. His legacy lives on in his work, in the laughter, the warmth, and the characters he brought to life. A true master of his craft, Coleman leaves behind a career that spanned decades. And in every role, he showed us that even the most unlikable characters had something worth watching. For those who knew him, and for those who came to love his work, Dabney Coleman will always be remembered, not just for the characters he played, but for the person he was off-screen. A man of depth, humor, and humanity. The kind of actor who made us all realize that sometimes the worst of us are the most interesting to watch. Number 2. Jerry Faust, From High School Glory to Notre Dame's Fall. Jerry Faust was born in 1939 in the small town of Madisonville, Ohio. From a young age, it was clear that Jerry was destined for something special, not just because of his love for football, but because of his deep understanding of what it meant to inspire, to lead. As a high school coach, he turned the Archbishop Moeller High School football team into a powerhouse. Under his leadership, Moeller achieved national recognition, winning numerous state championships. But it was more than just the trophies. Faust instilled a sense of discipline and camaraderie in his players that transcended the game itself. An interview with an old assistant coach who reflects on Faust's impact. What made Jerry stand out wasn't just his football strategy. It was the way he connected with his players, how he made them believe in themselves, not just as athletes, but as individuals. he could see greatness in them long before they did. In 1981, Faust took the bold step of becoming the head coach of Notre Dame, one of the most prestigious football programs in the world. The transition from high school to college was a monumental shift, and the pressure was immense. Yet, Jerry Faust's passion for the game was unwavering. He believed in the heart of the players, their potential to overcome obstacles. His optimism was contagious, even as the challenges of coaching at such a high level tested him time and time again. Despite the challenges, Faust never wavered. His tenure at Notre Dame brought mixed results. The victories were hard-earned, but his personal growth as a coach and a man was undeniable. It was a time when Faust learned that leadership was more than just X's and O's. It was about people. Number 1. Paul Di'Anno, the unstoppable voice of Iron Maiden's early sound. On the other side of the world, Paul Di'Anno was beginning to make his own mark, but in a completely different arena. Born Paul Andrews in 1958 in Chingford, London, Di'Anno's love for music was evident from the start. He was an explosive force on stage, and his voice, raw, powerful, and full of energy, captured the essence of the burgeoning heavy metal scene. Joining Iron Maiden in 1978, Paul Di'Anno helped shape the band's early sound, lending his distinctive voice to their groundbreaking albums. Iron Maiden, Killers, and their live performances in the early years became the foundation for one of the most iconic heavy metal bands in history. But Di'Anno's time with the band was short-lived, leaving in 1981 due to personal and professional differences. Paul Di'Anno's voice became synonymous with Iron Maiden's early sound. His aggressive, punk-infused vocal style was perfect for the band's raw, rebellious energy. Even though his time with Maiden was brief, he was crucial to their early success. He gave them a voice that resonated with an entire generation. After leaving Iron Maiden, Di'Anno continued to pursue his music career, forming the band Killers and releasing albums that captured the same gritty, intense spirit he had brought to Maiden. But the road was far from easy. Struggles with addiction and personal demons led to years of instability, but Paul never stopped performing. Despite the challenges, Paul Di'Anno's love for music never waned. Even in the face of health struggles and the weight of his past, he continued to connect with his fans. In 2024, the world was saddened by the news of his passing at the age of 66. The legacy he left behind as the voice of early Iron Maiden will forever be etched in the history of rock. As for Jerry Faust, after leaving Notre Dame, he found his way back to high school coaching, where his roots were. He continued to shape young minds and help students realize their potential. Even after retiring, his name remained synonymous with commitment, integrity, and resilience. The loss of these incredible figures leaves a void that can never be filled. Their legacies, however, will live on in the hearts and minds of all who were touched by their work. If you've been moved by today's tributes, don't forget to like, share, and comment to honor their memory. And make sure to subscribe so you never miss the stories of the legends we've lost. Rest in peace, and thank you for the memories.